And he's a fascinating character himself, Shan, right? Because he's clearly worked hard, very, very hard, but he's struggled to cut it at test level. If you see him recently, he has started to play like, quite aggressively and he takes bowlers on. And maybe he's been inspired by Baz McCullum and Ben Stokes, I'm not sure. Or maybe he probably thought that, look, there's going to be a delivery that has my name written on it anyway. Might as well score some runs before that. Whatever his logic is, it's fine. I'm with you, right? But then again, it's a very high pressure situation to be in. You're leading the country and you're fearing for your own position. So it's not ideal. Like, this is not optimization by any stretch. And the PCB continue to, make moves which kind of stunt Pakistan's growth as a whole. Yeah, plus I feel like you can't even have both of Tristan Stubbs and Dewald Brevis, right? Because you want one of those dynamic batters in there. Maybe just kind of, embrace the chaos and go with Dewald Brevis at number three, right? I mean, if you're going with Stubbs at three, and he has struggled a bit in recent times, although he also scored some runs before that, maybe you could take a chance with Brevis at number three. But then, yeah, it's a tough one. It's tough to kind of assemble a middle order. Maybe you sacrifice Zubair Hamza then and have Stubbs as your number four. Dewald Brevis then comes at number three, and you've got Bedingham at five.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Stumped, a podcast series specifically designed for me to waste the time of people who have better things to do than just sit around and chat with me. And today, my victim is Beram Kazi, my brother from good areas, cricket commentator, analyst, and writer. Beram, thank you for indulging me.
Anytime, CS, I've got a lot of time for you and all of the, I don't know, people at good areas, because we have been a family, I suppose, for what, 2+ years now. And I'm really happy to know that you're doing this for starters. Like, there needs to be a dedicated podcast on South African cricket. So here I am. Let's do this.
Brilliant, thank you. Before we get into the upcoming test series between South Africa and Pakistan, just saw something today and I thought, wow, Pakistan does enjoy banning NOCs from time to time. It's like a new hobby of them.
Dude, it's just wild, honestly, when I think about it, right? Because what does this really achieve? And if you think about all the damage that it does, like, there's plenty of things, right? First, the PCB ruins its own relationship with its players, because players, what, they're active for 15 years if they do well, limited careers, and you are denying them money making opportunities, but also opportunities to go and gain valuable exposure, to upskill, and to just kind of be a part of the franchise T20 ecosystem. Because Pakistan players don't play the IPL as is. So denying them further opportunities is just flat out stupid and bizarre. And then, sure, you've ruined your relationships with players, and you have kind of, cancelled out their paths to go and make money and gain more experience and exposure. But then also, you are ruining your relationship or worsening your ties with other cricket boards and franchise leagues. So if I'm the Big Bash League right now, who has invested heavily in Pakistan players and is marketing, the tournament around them, I would be pissed. And that doesn't help you with the PSL either, because you want other boards to be your friends so that they can send their players to play for your, franchise T20 tournament. So it really is something that I can't quite wrap my head around. And then again, right, like, don't issue the NOCs in the first place. I think they've gone on record and said something along the lines that players have to earn their NOCs. Look, Babar and Rizwan weren't part of the team. Shaheen Shah Afridi had a good tournament. Haris Rauf had a bad final, but a good tournament. Shadab Khan is injured, and he's not even a part of the squad right now. So who exactly are you punishing? It's the same old strong arming technique that we've seen from the PCB time and again. And it really doesn't make sense whatever way you look at it, because everyone loses, right? Like, other franchise T20 leagues lose, your players lose, you lose, and you are basically deterring franchise teams from across the world to sign Pakistan players because I've spoken to a lot of them, by the way. They are hesitant. There are those reservations.
Mhm.
They exist even before this debacle that, teams don't
Mm.
really want to sign or are really afraid to sign Pakistan players because they don't want any last minute NOC drama. And again, I had those conversations with people before this, way before this. And this is not the first time NOC drama is happening in Pakistan cricket either. We've seen it time and again. And this is yet another torrid chapter. But what can we do, right? Can't really rationalize or have any sort of argument with the PCB based around logic.
I think it's just PCB does it loudly. It's just one of
Hmm.
those things that cricket boards just continuously do to frustrate the sport
Hmm.
that everyone loves so much. It's just that the PCB has a way of just blowing things up and making a theatrical production out of it because
Hmm.
I don't get it myself. I was like, why? Why are you
Hmm.
doing this?
Yeah, I call them peak comedy board. That's what PCB stands for. And look, it's just really unfortunate because Pakistan players, they also deserve to go and play these leagues, right? And you want your players to go and play in different parts of the world, build relationships. Maybe, for instance, let's suppose if Babar Azam plays for the Sydney Sixers, there is some Australian prodigy who is playing for them the same
Mhm.
season, you can convince that prodigy to come to the PSL potentially, right? Like, there are so many benefits of this cross cultural or cross franchise T20 league, player exchange. And it seems to be, or the concept seems to be lost on deaf ears when it comes to the PCB. It's just, I'm not sure what their angle is, right? Because they didn't explain their angle. And
Mhm.
I mean, we've seen a lot of chopping and changing when it comes in the PCB, like, with respect to different administrators. But the very least that you need to do is come out there, have a press conference, and let people question you. And that hasn't happened either. So I'm not sure what their angle is. We'll find out soon enough. They might as well. I mean, I'm pretty sure they'll backtrack actually because they don't want to ruin their relationship with Cricket Australia. I mean, the Big Bash League is still a very, very prominent franchise T20 league. So you want that exchange to happen over there. And a lot of these guys who have been picked aren't even part of Pakistan's T20I team right now. So it just,
Mhm.
like I said, it makes no sense to me.
Yeah, you want to develop depth. I mean,
Hmm.
I would understand if you are like the West Indies and you feel like your players are focusing more on the
Hmm.
franchise circuit than they are on the national duty. But then also, if you're West Indies, we would say, well, you need to find creative ways to make money and try to lure guys back with the money because these days I don't think the argument of national pride holds much water when people look at the bank balances and they think, well, I have a short career. Very soon I need to start thinking about my future here.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. I feel like this is not new. Jared and I feel like we did a footmarks on this a while back, in which we discussed how Glenn Turner, who was premier batter from New Zealand, opening batter, averaged over 14 Test cricket. 6 years of his prime, he didn't play for New Zealand at all. He played county cricket in England. I want to
Mhm.
say for Worcestershire or Warwickshire. Worcestershire is what I feel more confident with, but either of those two, it's one of the W's, right? And that's 6 years in which he sacrificed his Test career because, cricket wasn't really professionalized in New Zealand. It was amateur hour. And he wanted more money, which county cricket was able to provide him with, and a stable paycheck. And you can't fault players for that. Similarly, over
Mhm.
here, you mentioned national pride. I feel like Pakistan or the PCB does kind of use that as a tool a lot, and they had a stipulation on these players to begin with that I reckon you can't play more than two franchise T20 leagues outside of the PSL every year. So you already have made things complicated. At least let them go and exercise those two contracts that they're going to get. And another thing that I don't understand is that when it comes to these two NOCs that they're granting, they're including, the Royal One Day Cup in London, or sorry, in England, and then they're
Mhm.
also including the county championship. Those should be separate. Those aren't T20 gigs. That's a different ball game altogether. Like, if Babar Azam is getting a contract to play for some county team when he's out of form, you want to push him. Say, go,
Mhm.
Barber, go play those games. You need them. Time out in the middle, foreign conditions. You might learn a thing or two. You might work something out. But now you've put him in a position where he's like, okay, do I take this gig because the T20 gigs will pay me more? And ultimately, I'll never blame players for going after the paycheck because, look, that's what it's all about at the end of the day. They're professionals and they have limited careers in which they have to earn money. So I don't think the PCB understands all of this. They think of all of this from a lens that, oh, if you're not performing, we're not going to allow you because we are going to discipline you like children and not treat you like assets. That's kind of their energy and always has been. And then secondly, you've got to think of it from a lens where if your player isn't playing any cricket at home, why shouldn't they go and play somewhere else? Why should there be further stipulations? This happened to Osama Mir. This happened to Mohammad Haris. These things are in the past now. This is fresh. And I thought they might have worked this stuff out when they came up with the stipulations, but they haven't clearly. And now, all the NOCs are suspended or on hold, and we'll know soon enough what comes of it. I have a feeling they'll backtrack because there's been a lot of, uproar, and rightly so. But you never really know with the PCB, man. Anything can happen, and it's as authoritarian as it gets.
Let's move away from that dark, gloomy chapter because
Sure.
even I'm still trying to understand it, but I cannot. Now, let's move to the test series starting on the 12th. I see our boys will be in Lahore and Rawalpindi. What sort of pitches do you expect? Because I was looking at the Pakistani side, five spinners in there. Do you expect turning tracks, or it's just them making sure they have all the options?
It's very, very fascinating. And when I looked at that squad, I was like, okay, two test match series at home, you've picked 18 guys. That seems a bit excessive to me, but it's a home series. Whatever. I've been told that this squad will be trimmed down to 15 when we come closer, and this is probably just for the training camps and that sort of stuff. But there are five frontline spinners in this squad out of 18 players, which suggests that Pakistan are about to curate dust bowls again, and rank turners are the way forward in their minds. I'm not a big fan of this because, look, you could get results in the short term. Of course, you might even defeat South Africa 2-0 in the series and it might work out for you. But there are a few things that don't work in your favor in the long term. Your batters cannot develop like you want them to because spending time out in the middle is tough because the ball is ragging from day one. And then your fast bowlers, which for Pakistan cricket is pretty much their heritage, right? Like when you think of Pakistan cricket, you think about fast bowlers. How will they develop in conditions where you're going to play one or two tops, right? And they might not even get a lot of overs, and you might be bowling or even opening the bowling with spinners. So your fast bowlers can't, or their development stagnates, as does the batters' development. And then, of course, there's the whole, thought process that, look, when you create or curate dust bowls, you are leveling the playing field. The toss becomes really important. The team that chases or bats last is at a clear disadvantage. Now, I'm not saying that Pakistan cannot win games of cricket on turning tracks at home where they bat last. They won a test match versus England doing exactly that last year. So it's not entirely toss dependent, but that might be like a one off. More often than not, you'll always see the side batting first, win those sort of test matches. So you're kind of evening the playing field over there, and it's a gamble. You're rolling the dice, but you're making it essentially a straight shootout between two teams. And on ranked turners, you don't need to be an exceptional world class spinner to trouble batters. You could be a Salman Ali Agha and trouble batters. You could be an Aiden Markram and trouble batters, right? So it really doesn't make sense to me from that angle that, these are your home conditions, but it's essentially 50-50 at the end of the day, and maybe 70-30 in favor of the team that wins the toss. So, not sure what the thought process is. Maybe they're just freaked out after all the failures that occurred on different sorts of surfaces. They might be thinking that, okay, turners, at least we've won 3 test matches out of 4. But then they might forget that South Africa have spinners of their own. I know Keshav Maharaj is only available for 1 test match, so that actually works in Pakistan's favor. But Simon Harmer, Essex legend, is going to be playing this series, right? He can be a handful. So, I mean, you are kind of giving South Africa a very, very good opportunity to not just, win a test match over here, but potentially also win the test series. And if you remember, CS, the last time South Africa toured Pakistan for test matches when Quinton de Kock was the captain, we saw great surfaces, sporting surfaces. They had a bit in them for the batters, they had a bit in them for the fast bowlers. Everyone enjoyed those test matches. 300, 350 was a great score. And it was a test series to remember for Pakistan fans because they swept South Africa 2-0. Now, when you have that sort of precedent and you know that South Africa's batting lineup is fragile as is, why not try and
Mhm.
cash in on your strength? And if you don't want to do that, why not go for UAE style surfaces? It's good for batting 2.5, 3 days, and then it starts to turn. At least there's more in those test matches. It's not one dimensional because over here it's just spin to win, and you're constantly looking at your spinners to get you wickets, and everyone else, like anyone who's not a spinner, is at a disadvantage. So I don't know. In the long term, I feel like it's a flawed strategy. In the short term, it might work, and based on that squad that they've selected, I feel like you're going to see some dust bowls in this series.
Yeah, and if we do get some dust balls, then South Africa are in a world of trouble. We
Hmm.
don't know how to play spin. Yes, we have Simon Hammer, very good spinner. Senuran Mutosami, I think, might
Hmm.
be okay-ish, but I don't think he'll be okay enough to trouble Baba, Rizwan, and everybody else in that betting lineup. So it's going to be interesting if they do turn out
Hmm.
a ranked turner. But let's look at Shan Masood. So
Hmm.
Jared touched on him as captain.
Yeah.
And do you feel you are in this? You understand the dynamics much more than anybody else I know.
Hmm.
Do you think his position is tenable or does it look tentative to you?
It's a very, very good question. Just a bit more on the rank turners before we go there, however. I feel like, sure, you are at an advantage versus South Africa, but then Sri Lanka are set to tour Pakistan as well in this same cycle. What are you going to do then, right? Like, so you need to be a bit more diverse with your plans. And can you just quickly confirm to me why Keshav Maharaj is not available for one test match? Do you know the reason? Is he having a kid?
Uh no, he has an injury. He
Oh,
has a bit of a niggle. So
hmm.
they say that his recovery is on point. It's coming along very well, but so that's why he's out of the one test.
Fair enough. All right. Now, Shan Masood. Very, very intriguing question, and it deserves to be asked because Shan Masood averages 30 with the bat in Test cricket, right? Now, that is not a stellar number, and Shan Masood is a very intelligent cricketer. He's got a good cricketing brain. He's got experience as well. He's been around forever, and he's done really well in county cricket as well. So he has a few things going for him, and he's someone who's always worked really hard on his game. He's always upskilled and come back into the team on merit. But then again, as Jared said, really, I mean, I completely agree with this point that sure, if you've picked him as your captain, number one, you want to give him the cycle, right? And
Mhm.
Pakistan don't think along those lines in Test cricket, by the way, because first they kept Azhar Mahmood as their head coach for just 2 series till his contract runs out. And at the start of a cycle, you want to go in with a full strategy, saying like, look, these are the 3 away tours, these are the 3 home series, and this is the sort of cricket that we want to play in each of those series. What sort of coach do we need to play that sort of cricket? That's your first thought. But they never went there. They were like, oh, we don't have a test guy right now, no head coach in test cricket. So Azhar has been a part of the team. His contract runs out on XYZ date. So let's just keep him for 2 series. Bad idea because you want to plan for the entire cycle. And then, with your head coach, you need to decide what sort of surfaces you need to curate for home series. But Azhar's not even going to be there for the entire 6 series. And you need to ask your coach then what sort of captain should be leading this team. And I don't think that conversation happened. They just wasted so much time that they were like, okay, it's too soon to the test series now to make any changes. So Shan can captain in the series. In an ideal world, you want to tell Shan Masood and Azhar Mahmood, okay, we've picked you or selected you guys as the top brass for the next World Test Championship cycle. Azhar, Shan, you have to lead Pakistan in 6 series, and then we'll assess you guys at the end of the cycle. But that's not how the Pakistan Cricket Board functions. They will look at things from series to series, and that's not how you approach World Test Championships. If anything, we've learnt that over 3 seasons, right? And Shan Masood, I'm fine if they think that Shan and Azhar are the right guys for the job, but then give them time, right? Now, if you're averaging 13 Test cricket, one bad series or two bad series with the bat, and questions are going to arise that, hey, this guy doesn't even average 30 in Test cricket anymore, so he doesn't deserve to be a part of this team. And it's deeper than that. This might be the fan sentiment or the spectator sentiment, but this could also come from within the team, right?
Hmm.
They might think that, why is this guy leading us when he's not even averaging 30 with the bat? So it is really a tightrope that Shan Masood has to walk. I hope he gets some runs because I want him now to continue till the end of the cycle. If you've entrusted
Hmm.
him with the job, then he should lead Pakistan across 6 series. But because he's averaging 30, it's a tough one. Two bad series, and you're thinking, is he the right guy, to just be a part of this team? So I'm not sure if it works out that way, especially when they had options with respect to Saud Shakil and Mohammad Rizwan. Those guys could captain. But then again, if you've selected Shan, then back him. Don't half-heartedly back him, because if you remember the last time they issued central contracts, Shan had like whatever category he was in. He's category D right now, by the way, Test captain category D. Saud Shakil averages 50 plus in 19 Test matches, category C. You can tell how the Pakistan Cricket Board doesn't really care much about Test cricket, right? The way they're allotting contracts kind of paints a picture. But then you back Shan and you tell him that don't worry about your spot and go and lead this team to victories. That's not going to happen. He had a stipulation in his contract the last time that you're only in the central contract list as long as you're captain. It's not the sort of confidence you want to give your player, and you keep your player insecure when you do these things, and that's what's going to happen over here as well. I hope it doesn't happen, but if Shan Masood averages 15 with the bat or 20 with the bat across one series or two series, there's going to be a lot of media scrutiny, and the PCB will probably axe him, and that's not the right way to go. But this is Pakistan cricket.
Yeah, you point out a very good point. Look, bite the bullet, back the
Hmm.
man you've selected, and just go with him until the cycle is over, or if and only if you fail to persuade him to stay on. Just keep going.
Yeah. And he's a
And
fascinating character himself, Sean, right? Because
mhm,
he's clearly worked hard, very, very hard, but he's struggled to cut it at test level. If you see him recently, he has started to play like, quite aggressively, and he takes bowlers on. And maybe he's been inspired by Baz McCullum and Ben Stokes, I'm not sure. Or maybe he probably thought that, look, there's going to be a delivery that has my name written on it anyway. Might as well score some runs before that. Whatever his logic is, it's fine. I'm with you, right? But then again, it's a very high pressure situation to be in. You're leading the country and you're fearing for your own position. So it's not ideal. Like, this is not optimization by any stretch. And the PCB continue to, make moves which kind of stunt Pakistan's growth as a whole.
yeah, I mean, I think of when you say that, I think of Vian Mulder, not a
Hmm.
three. He he won't be happy, but yeah, I think everybody knows that. Look, he's good enough for the bat, but not a three. But one thing Mulder told me when I had a chat with him a while back was he went into matches so preoccupied about what people would say about his batting, about what the bowler is going to try to do to him. So much so that each time he went to bat, he felt like he was carrying a backpack. And that always weighed him down. All those other preoccupations formed a distraction. And instead of him playing to his level, he looked much worse than he actually was. And I feel that when you talk about Shan's situation, that you know what, he doesn't have the greatest numbers, he doesn't have the greatest
Hmm.
figures by any stretch of margin, but all this happening around him does not help his game at all.
Absolutely not. And it's not like he's no one. He's done well in the county circuit. He's been around for a long
Mhm.
time, so there's experience over there. It's not like Pakistan is spoiled for choice when it comes to top three batters either, right? So it's not the worst thing in the world that he's playing for Pakistan. And honestly, like I know Shan personally is someone who takes his cricket very seriously. He wants to do well. And if backed properly, maybe he can bring you the results. In the last two test series, for instance, versus South Africa and the West Indies, he was amongst the runs, right? He did really well. So yeah, if you want to back someone, back them properly. But just a bit on Wian Mulder. He's not the best at three, but just the best since Brian Charles Lara, right? Because he nearly broke his record.
Nice one.
Yeah, well. And he
I
led
think
he
he's
led South Africa in that game as well. He was captain. So the
yes.
weight of that responsibility is clearly working on Wian. Also, it's really fascinating how we're seeing so many false number threes. Wian Mulder is one of them, right? And we've seen England do it with Jacob Bethel as well. I was wondering if Pakistan could try something along the lines where they picked a spinner who can bat a bit, because if they're going for these conditions, that makes sense. And you shove that spinner up at number three, but they don't have anyone over here in the squad, so that can't work. However, if you've noticed in recent times, the primary job of a number three batter is to delay the entry point of your number four batters. And Shan isn't
Mhm.
really capable of doing that because he plays his shots. So perhaps Shan should look to open then with Imam, perhaps, and Abdullah Shafiq can go at first drop and delay Babar Azam's entry point. But then again, this is me speaking my mind. There has been no inclination from within the team that this is about to happen. Shan will bat first drop.
Wow. It's a lot of pressure. First drop is not easy, especially
Yeah.
when the opposition gets an early wicket and then all of a sudden he is caught in two minds whether to attack or to go back into his shell because there's stats to worry about, there's his
Hmm.
security to worry about. It's a mess for me. And I was looking at this. Shaheen Afridi is back after close
Hmm.
to a year out of action. How does it look? I didn't watch much of the Asia Cup. I know different format and everything. But how is it looking? Is he incisive? Does it look like he will make things happen with the new ball?
His transformation has been interesting because clearly we know that we've lost peak Shaheen, right, to injury. That guy, everyone who's ever watched him bowl a delivery, they'll know that that guy was special. He won the cricket equivalent of the Ballon d'Or, right, when he was, what, 21 years of age? So clearly Shaheen Shah Afridi at that point in time was arguably the best new ball bowler in the world. And he could get the ball to tail in, and he could go for those fuller end deliveries with lateral movement, and he would trouble batters with high pace as well. So that combination was killer. And he's lost quite a bit of pace since then. That said, I saw him crank it up to 145 in the Asia Cup, but that's in isolation. It's not on the regular. On the regular, he's high 130s with respect to his pace. And he's gotten a bit more intelligent in white ball cricket, such that he's not searching for the magic ball every now and then, right? He used to like bowl those fuller end deliveries, and maybe they'd go for full tosses or slot balls. I've seen him drag his length back and vary his pace. He's developed a slower one, back of the hand slower one, and he already had the finger rolling cutter, right? But those are skills relevant to white ball cricket, not necessarily red ball cricket. I don't know if he's played any red ball cricket at all in a long, long time, and he has expressed his desire that he wants to play Test cricket. And Pakistan have picked what, three seamers in here. There's Hassan Ali, who's also making a comeback. I'm not sure what he's done because I don't think I'd take Hassan Ali over Mohammad Abbas. Mohammad Abbas just won the county championship for Nottinghamshire, and he's a stock bowler. And Pakistan always go for these bowlers with magic deliveries, but stock bowlers is what they need, who can pitch it in the same area over and over again and get the ball to nip in either direction, which is exactly what Mohammad Abbas does. But they think he's lost an extra yard of pace and he won't be good in these wickets. And my argument is that if he can do it at Trent Bridge with a Kookaburra ball, then he can also take wickets for Pakistan, right? However, he's not a part of the squad. Biggest miss for me. Shaheen Shah Afridi, I'm not even sure he's going to get a game if Pakistan are going for a solitary fast bowler. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But this is an opportunity for him to come and play the format that he so dearly wants to play. And he's looked better. The commitment in the field has been insane. I mean, he was always a good fielder, but he's throwing himself around again, which does scare me a bit. But you can't fault the player for that. He's an athlete. And his batting has improved, as you might have seen in the Asia
Mhm.
Cup. So that probably helps his case. But then again, you want Shaheen primarily to just give you, overs on overs and bowl well. And I'm not sure if he is ready to do that in Test cricket just yet. But then again, this is an opportunity for him. And if he can trouble South Africa on these surfaces, then surely he will book a spot for himself on whatever overseas tour Pakistan go to next. Because ultimately he is quality. He is a left arm quick, which that's a rare commodity on its own. And
Mhm.
Shaheen, just the fact that he's trying to bowl more intelligently, and his lines and lengths have been better, his accuracy has been better, and his pace variations, not relevant in Test cricket, but still have been better. So he's finally picked up his slack. He's definitely impressed Mike Hesson in the white ball setup. But this is a new, fresh opportunity for him to kind of cement his place in the test team. And I'm not sure if that's even the right ploy. If he's not suited to red ball cricket anymore, then might as well maximize your body or, preserve yourself for white ball cricket. So that's a decision for him to make. We'll get more evidence in the series if he plays, because that's still an if.
Is he, when you look at him, is he going down the more Lungi Ngidi route? Because Ngidi at some point just decided, you know what, I cannot keep bowling express pace here. My career cannot sustain this. My body is telling me no. So I have to try to be clever about things, know where to land the ball. If it's white ball, then I will bowl the most slower ball deliveries than anyone has ever seen. And in Test cricket, he's not really slower ball deliveries, but he's not express pace. Do you see Afridi going in that direction, but just, different angles?
Look, there's more money to be made in white ball cricket, so he's not going to give that up, right? And that's fair play. I'm not going to blame him for that. Plus, the PCB has made it very clear that they don't even prioritize Test cricket because the central contracts for Test specialists are in the C and D categories. So, look, I feel like it could be that sort of case with Shaheen. It's not like he's slow now. High 130s is still decent pace. But then again, even though he has the cutter in which he rolls his fingers over the ball and he's developed a back of the hand slower one, which does kind of move a bit as well. Neither of those deliveries are better than Lungi and Ngidi's dipper, right? It is a dipper for all intents and purposes. It's a slower one, but the way it kind of dips really catches batters off guard. I mean, Joss Butler could tell you a thing or two about that. And I feel like they have different skill sets in the sense that Lungi doesn't get to bowl too frequently with the new ball because there are other guys in the South African team as well who can do that job. When Shaheen plays, he always gets the new ball. So their roles are a bit different in that regard. But we'll know when he plays Test cricket whether or not he can continue to. I know he wants to, but you've got to look at workload management at some point as well. And Pakistan have a T20 World Cup coming up next year in which he absolutely has to play. Like, look, even though he's not peak Shaheen anymore, he's still a damn good asset and a damn good bowler. So if he's developed those skills in white ball cricket, may as well maximize him over there. However, I'd like to see how he fares in Test cricket. Like, it's a question unanswered. I wanted him to play those tests in South Africa last year, but they didn't retain him for that series. And that was a bit of a bummer. But over here, you see him back in confidence. Maybe he can do a thing or two in this Test series. And it all depends on whether the surface aids him or not as well. If he does play, Shaheen should just go for the stock delivery over and over again. Keep pitching it at a good length. Do what Siraj does. Don't overbowl the magic delivery or try to continue to find it, because that's what gets you success in Test cricket. Persistence, perseverance. And they've got a bowler who can do that in this team in Khurram Shahzad. I'm not sure if you've seen a lot of him, but that's kind of his trade. That's what he's known for. He's like Mohammad Abbas light. And then again, I think that if you've selected Khurram, why not just select Abbas? And Hassan Ali's also made his comeback. But that's a question for the PCB and the selectors. I feel like Shaheen might not go back to the peak years that we've, watched him perform during. But then again, he could still have a very successful career for Pakistan. Is he an all format bowler? Time will tell.
When you look at this lineup, whom do you think is going to make the final 15? Because you did indicate that there's information that, this is like the big side and that it will be trimmed at some point. Who do you see? Who are the three that you see falling off? And if pushed, which I might just try to do, the
Yeah,
11.
I mean, that's also a very fantastic question. So you might see Faisal Akram's name in here. He's a young left arm wrist spinner. And whilst he can turn the ball in both directions, he doesn't have a lot of experience under his belt. He's probably going to miss out because you know that Noman Ali and Sajid Khan are going to start, right? And if they want to play a third spinner, then that'll be Abrar. And if they want to play two seamers, then Salman Ali Agha will be your third spinner. So I feel like Faisal Akram will definitely be one of those players who misses out. Another one might be Kamran Ghulam. Look, the problem with two match test series is that, you can't just drop a player after one poor test. And by the time you have your second poor test, the series is done. Which is why I like three match test series, because then you can finally make a change in the third test. That won't happen over here. I reckon Babar Azam plays both games and Kamran Ghulam is backup for Babar Azam. So it could be him who misses out. And the third person could be one of Amir Jamal or Asif Afridi or Hassan Ali. Asif Afridi is what, 38, 39 years old, slow left armour, done well in red ball, so he's earned his call up. But then again, he's not going to make the starting 11, so could be him. Amir Jamal could also play, by the way, if they want some more batting. But if they choose to go the Shaheen route, then he could be the one axed. And then with respect to Hassan Ali, I just don't understand how he would get in ahead of Shaheen Shah Afridi and Khurram Shahzad. They're not going to play three seamers, and those are the two that are going to play. So yeah, those five players, I feel three out of those five players would probably miss out.
Hmm. And I saw an interesting name when I was doing my mini prep. Is Nazir, the backup keeper.
Yeah.
What is your information on him? He might not play because there's Rizwan in there, but I like fringe players when they come in. I'm like every other person. I want to know everything I can about them.
Ruhail Nazir is actually a friend of mine. I once shot a podcast with him and he really enjoyed himself. So, whenever he gets selected for a squad, I send him a congratulatory message and he responds nicely. I'm happy for him. The first class record isn't stellar. I think 43 first class games or roundabout somewhere close to that region. And he's averaged what, close to 35, touch under 35 with the bat. It's not poor. And
Mhm.
I like the fact that they're blooding a new, red ball wicketkeeper bat. Ruhail Nazir has been in the system for the longest time, and he was under 19 captain for Pakistan as well. Right hand bat. He's developed really nicely in the last couple of years. His performances have been a lot better. And he is serious about his game. When I spoke to him, he said that Test cricket is the format I want to play. And that was music to my ears. So perhaps that has been received well by the selectors, and they've earmarked him as, second in line after Rizwan. That said, he probably makes the squad in case of, an injury. Let's suppose Rizwan, does his hammy or something. You need a guy in there in the dugout who can go out there and keep wicket. So he will be a part of the 15. However, when is he going to make his debut for Pakistan in Test cricket is a question that has no answer right now, because as long as Mohammad Rizwan is around, you play him in every game. Like, you don't often get wicketkeeper batters who are, really, really good glovesmen, and then he's averaging 40 with the bat. So that's a killer combo. And then Rizwan is one of Pakistan's most reliable bats. He's a crisis batter for Pakistan as well. So yes, Rohil doesn't get a game, but to be Rizwan's understudy and stay with the team and practice with them, train with them, that's good for him. He's still not old per se. I reckon he's probably mid 20s. I'm going to check real quick. I want to say he's probably 26. That would be my guess. Oh, he's 23. That's insane. So there's a lot of time for him. And if
Yeah.
he is getting this exposure this early in his career, then that only augurs well for both him and Pakistan. And yeah, you need to have red ball wicket keepers ready in case of an injury or in case of whenever Rizwan decides to hang up his boots.
What is the first class state like in Pakistan? Like, for example, are playing county cricket. They are not taking part in our domestic franchise league, and they are also in the test side. So it looks like to me and a few other people that maybe CSA is saying, you know what, test class, first class doesn't matter because they only play 7 games a year. And you know what, guys are able to play wherever they want or wherever they can while the season is on. Not only that, we had our test players, the ones who are not in the UK playing county, going on the tour with the Mace when there's first class cricket happening. It just doesn't make sense for me. So it just looks like people are putting it on the back burner, maybe because it's not making money. I don't know. But what's the situation like in Pakistan?
What really bothers me with respect to the first class situation or domestic structure in Pakistan is that there's no consistency. There'll be a new chairman every now and then, and they will revamp the entire, structure. Sometimes they'll bring department cricket back into the fold. Sometimes they'll go, only regional cricket. And let's just say that the first class structure in Pakistan cricket has been revamped an n number of times. And I think that hurts Pakistan cricket because, look, I'm not an expert on South African first class, but I know that there's a lot of, players who play in England. And I feel like it's fine if they're playing their first class cricket in England because at least they're getting a lot of red ball, game time, and they're playing a quality competition. What you get with the county championship and the Ranji Trophy and the Sheffield Shield is that there is some heritage at play. There is a history, and kids would want to grow up to represent Victoria or Nottinghamshire or, I don't know, Mumbai, right? There is that whole stake at play where this is a very premier competition and we want to grow up and play this competition. And you know how there's certain cricketers, or if you look at all these domestic cricketers in England and Australia who don't get to play for England and Australia, they have very celebrated careers and they are very content with their lives. They've made their money and they're happy, right? They feel like they've achieved something. In Pakistan, that's not the case. First of all, when you bring in departments, who the hell wants to watch a gas company play a television network? You're never going to get crowds turn in for that, right? Like it doesn't sit well with me. If you really wanted to bring in departments, then why not have a hybrid model in which you have the department as the sponsor, and then the region followed by that. So let's say Habib Bank, Islamabad, stuff like that, right? They don't do it that way, and then they chop and change and revamp it so frequently that the heritage element is lost completely. And you don't have any kid in Pakistan who's saying, I want to grow up and play for PTV. That doesn't happen, right? And even for the regional teams, I feel like they don't do it correctly. So what they should do is, for once, streamline the first class setup, come up with a bunch of teams which are region based or city based, bring in departments as sponsors, and continue it for 100 years. And then, maybe 50 years in, you'll get those kids who are like, oh, I want to grow up and play for that team. And unless and until you don't fix that, you are not going to bring eyeballs of the public towards first class cricket. And players also might not feel that same sort of passion whilst representing, their domestic team. But then again, even if you don't do those things, at least decide on the number of teams that are going to play in the competition and continue that for every year, right? They don't even do that either. And it's just hodgepodge. Last year, there were like two different, and it probably is the same this year actually, two different first class competitions. One was the department one was the regional one. If I'm a selector, which one am I looking at? Right? Like, which is the premier competition that I'm picking talent from? And if I'm a cricketer, which one do I want to play? Where do I want to perform? Where will I catch the eye of the selector? It's just all too disjointed to make any sense. And I feel like they just don't want to waste any brain cells trying to fix it either. Because when there is a new chairman, they come up with their own solution. They want to look as the good guys. No one is thinking long term in Pakistan cricket. It's all reactive, it's not proactive. And that is the issue of the PCB. They are basically, the Pakistan Cricket Board is they have a disease. They suffer from chronic ad hocism or ad hocery, right? Because they'll only react when something happens and they won't really plan for the future. And you continue to see this with every chairman, by the way. I'm not really kind of leveling the blame on one. I'm talking about the system as a whole. And it ultimately, goes back to the biggest issue in Pakistan cricket is that, the patron in chief of the PCB is the acting prime minister. You're probably not too well versed in Pakistan politics, but we get lots of prime ministers every now and then. So there is no stability, there is no process, and without process, you will always only perform on talent, which Pakistan has plenty of, but you won't have consistency. And that's been Pakistan's journey in international cricket forever, right? They're the team that can surprise. They're the mercurial team. They are the unexpected team. On their day, Pakistan can do anything. But when in their entire history of Pakistan ever been a consistent team? Maybe late 80s, Imran's team, right? That was really successful. That might be it, dude. Maybe Misbah's team, right? In UAE. Those are the only two captains I can think of who somewhat brought about some sort of consistency. And that is despite the system, by the way. That is not due to the system.
I get that because, look, one thing I will give South Africa is that there is, let's just say, that heritage aspect. In the 80s, South Africa was isolated because, as we all know, the race issue. apartheid.
Yeah.
But you look at the Lions, their team from the 80s, it was Gauteng, it's still Gauteng now. And you can talk about the mean machine and then the legacy and everything. And if you are that dogmatic, you will say, I won't recognize the mean machine. I will start looking after the 90s. There's still history there. There's still something to look back on and say, you know what, we have, as the Lions, we are this type of side. As the Titans, we are this type of side. Luandre Pretorius, he is playing today in a first class match for the Titans. There's that thing where you really have to give yourself to to the franchise. It's good. But what I just don't agree with is the way things are handled, like marketing. No one knows. The journalists know, but does the public know that there's a first class tournament happening?
Yeah, I feel you over there because I know about these teams, right? The Lions and KwaZulu Natal and all of that fun stuff, right? And back when we used to have the Champions League in T20s, you'd see these teams feature. But I feel like what a lot of boards kind of miss out on is that you can really get the public behind these tournaments if you market them well and if you try to make sense of what the structure is like. And again, maybe India, England, and Australia have that sorted, and everyone else just needs to pick up their slack.
When you look at this side, South Africa, I do not think there are any surprises. I don't think we expect much change. If anything, we don't have cash in a match because of injury. Besides that, we know what to expect from this South Africa side, don't we?
I mean, look, we're talking about the World Test Champions over here, right? This is a big series, and this is not me being cheeky at all. They've earned it, and these players, they performed all over the globe. You could make a case that, oh, of course they're a great home team and they know how to take 20 wickets, and that's how they're still like really really tough to beat in their own backyard. But this is also a team that won 2-0 in Bangladesh, and Bangladesh has a lot of turning tracks. So Kyle Verena is someone who performed really well in that series, from what I recall. I'd be wary of him in this series as well. And you've got these guys who now have that weight off their shoulders that they need to prove something. Maybe they can go out there and express themselves because they are the current holders of the mace. I feel like it is a big blow actually to not have Keshav Maharaj in one of those test matches because Pakistan batters just struggle versus slow left armers, man. You could be Keshav Maharaj, you could be Akshar Patel, you could be Simranjeet Singh, you could be Mohammad Assam from ESPN Cricinfo, also a slow left armer. Pakistan batters will just struggle versus the bowling type. Quality doesn't matter, and Keshav Maharaj is arguably the best slow left armer in Test cricket right now. So I still feel not having him for one Test match is a big blow. But then you've got the likes of Senaran Mutusami, Simon Harmer. I'm not sure about Prenalan Subrayan. Has he been cleared? Because he was called out for
Yes,
chucking, right?
yes, he was cleared a while back. It was Preneland's situation is very interesting for me because he has been called out since 2016. He's had a few run-ins with these guys for close to 10 years of his career. It's just that thing where he thinks he's taking the next step and then he's called out. He goes there, he gets tested. I think the first time he had to remodel his action a bit, but now when they did the testing and everything, they were satisfied with all his deliveries. But it's going to be interesting if he's able to to play because I would put Mutusami ahead of him. That's just
Yeah.
me. When I look at Sen, I see a much more accomplished spinner, and he's been with the Proteas for much longer, the test side that is, than Preneland.
Yeah, and plus Senaran Mutasami can bat, right? That helps. And you need those sort of players, especially on these types of tours where you know that you might struggle in turning conditions. So you need as much batting as you can possibly get. So maybe Mutasami might even start both test matches. There's another name here that's really sticking out to me, and it's not Simon Harmer, because we all know Simon Harmer and how good he's been for Essex. Zubair Hamza is back. Last memory of him for me was a bad one. He got caught in some corruption scandal. So what's
No,
the
no.
update over there? Has he scored a lot of runs?
Well, Zubair Hamza first. I'm obliged to say this. there was a situation with, those tablets masking
Hmm.
whatever's. So Zubair says it was he had a cold or something and he took something like
Uh-huh.
Sinutab or whatever, and then he was caught in his system. Or was it a blood
Mm.
pressure thing? And then when he was caught in
Oh.
his system, eh, he w- they thought he was a masking agent because
Ah.
maybe doping or whatever.
Okay, okay.
And
So it
it
was
could,
doping, not corruption. Got it. But then again,
yeah,
this happens all the
it,
time, doesn't it?
yeah,
They take
yeah,
something
it
else
does.
and
And he served his ban. And
hmm,
I do not think there are much. Look, I don't know him personally, but just from what I've seen about him, he's one of those down to earth, humble, chilled
hmm,
guys who do not bother anyone. Zubi
okay.
is just that guy. He's
Hmm,
he's one of those whom you are shocked to hear something like this. But when we come to the runs, yes, he's been scoring good runs. Last season in the domestic series, I think he was third, third highest on the run list, and he scored the most half centuries and a single century. That's my only gripe with him, that he wasn't converting as much, but he was the most consistent across the board.
hmm. Also,
And yep, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, yeah. No, no, no. I've just noticed that there is no skipper in this. There's no Temba. He's injured, isn't he? So who, like
Yeah, yeah,
Zubair Hamza, is then shooed in to bat at number four? Then is that the thought process?
maybe because Zubair is a great number four. He's
Hmm,
really good at that position. I would put him in at four, and
hmm,
when the skipper is out, then you have
hmm.
Zubi in there, and
True. So
also
let's, yeah.
Zubi will also fulfill the requirements, the quota requirements, because he's a player of color.
Hmm. True, true. That's actually very important. So I'm just trying to create an 11 in my head over here. You've got Aiden Markram opening with Ryan Rickleton. I don't think they'll change them right now because Rickleton got runs versus Pakistan the last time those two teams met. He became Ryan Rickle Doubleton in that Cape
Mm.
Town game, right? Uh, I do like Tony DeZorzi, but I don't feel like he starts. So you've got Markram, Rickleton, perhaps Tristan Stubbs at three, Zubair Hamza four. Then you've got David Bedingham five. Oh, actually, how do we fit Baby AB into this? Because we have to,
How to
right?
get me? Mm?
Baby AB, how do we fit Devol Brevis in this?
Ooh, that's an interesting one because
Yeah,
Devil is your modern number five. That's what he's been
yeah.
doing. He is the modern five. So,
Hmm.
but then the problem is that Bellingham's position also. So if
Yep.
you, I feel like it's tough to have both of them
Hmm.
because while Devil is a decent leggy, he has not been utilized on the national scale, so he cannot be that two-dimensional player, bold and bat and whatever. So same goes for Bedingham. Bedingham is a backup keeper when he can, but not in Red Bull.
Hmm.
He has this injury that prevents him. Very good keeper, but the injury.
Hmm.
So I don't see how you can have both of them. You have to make a decision. You
Hmm.
have to pick one.
Yeah. Plus, I feel like you can't even have both of Tristan Stubbs and Devol Brevis, right? Because you want one of those dynamic batters in there. Maybe just kind of, embrace the chaos and go with Dewald Brevis at number three, right? I mean, if you're going with Stubbs at three, and he has struggled a bit in recent times, although he also scored some runs before that, maybe you could take a chance with Brevis at number three. But then, yeah, it's a tough one. It's tough to kind of assemble a middle order. Maybe you sacrifice Zubair Hamza then and have Stubbs as your number four. Dewald Brevis then comes at number three, and you've got Bedingham at five. I don't think they would be willing to fiddle with Bedingham right now because sure, in recent times the runs dried up a bit, but he was South Africa's most consistent batter, and this is still a fragile batting order, right? Like it can be,
Yes.
removed cheaply. So you want some insurance, and to me, Bedingham is insurance in Temba's absence, especially because Temba was all the insurance you needed, really. And at number
Mhm.
six, of course, you then have Kyle Verreynne, Seven
Yeah.
would be Vian Mulder. Eight would be Mutusami. Nine would be Harmer. And then would you play both of Rabada and Janssen?
Well, you need Janssen in the side.
Yeah.
For me, you need Janssen all the time because if you have Janssen, then he will bet at 8 and he gives you more
Hmm.
betting because it's a
Hmm.
fragile betting lineup. So
Yeah.
Janssen will come in. Sometimes he loses himself and he tries to work everything out of the park, but
Hmm.
he's a decent better when it boils down to it. So I would rather have Janssen in there and KG. Yes, you cannot have a test
Yeah.
match without a
Hmm.
fit Kakiso Rabada running in. He is
Yeah.
always going to make things happen. So I would play both of them.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question because, look, if South Africa want to kind of maximize their batting, one left field move would be to play Corbin Bosch ahead of Marco Janssen because I feel like Bosch is a far better batter, but then you are sacrificing on Janssen's bowling and his height. And, that can
Mhm.
trouble batters anywhere on any sort of deck. Not as much on these sort of decks, of course. But then again, height always kind of matters, I feel, especially when you're playing a team like Pakistan, who are always kind of susceptible or vulnerable to the short stuff. It's an interesting selection conundrum that South Africa have over here because, they could go for a dynamic batting order and then, they could also go for just some more safe batters and have one of Stubbs or Brevis. And then on the other hand, they need to decide how many seamers they're playing because if you're playing both of Janssen and Rabada, then Mulder is overkill. No, that's three seamers, and maybe that's not
Mhm.
the requirement for this sort of series. So, I feel like Shukri Conrad will be left scratching his head a bit when it comes to assembling a playing 11 because it's a tough one over here. I can't come up with a straightforward one at least.
I was thinking as we were talking that one of the things that Shukri might have to do for him, it will have to be if you can't have Zubi at 4,
Hmm.
then you need to have Tony at 3 because
Hmm.
Tony is an opener, yes, but he's a
Yeah.
decent 3. He can bat in
Hmm.
the years. He has had trouble in the recent past. Things haven't been working for him, but as you say, Tony is a good batter. His
Yeah.
quality is just that I think he went through that period where things just weren't working out for him. And let's hope,
Hmm.
I haven't seen him play this season. Let's hope that his return is
Hmm.
much better. He worked on stuff in the off season, and then he's able to deliver. But if forced, I would put Tony at 3.
The issue I have with Tony DeZorzi, I mean, I'm a fan. I think he's a very aesthetically pleasing batter. Cover drive to die for, right? Looks really good on the front foot. But when I've seen him versus spin, I feel like he bails himself out time and again by using his feet. Maybe that's a good ploy in white ball cricket, but not the best in test cricket because if it goes south, you're stumped. And that's the name of the show. Hey.
Yeah. Look, it's a conundrum for me why South Africa cannot play spin. I just don't get it
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
we have. You look at the pitches we have,
Hmm.
Kingsmead. You look at Paul. You look at St. George's. It takes a bit of spin. So
Yeah.
we have these surfaces where you're going to play at least 2 matches a season at those
Hmm.
turning surfaces, and we have some of the best spinners. You have your Cash, you have your Sen Mutasami, you have Prenelan. There are a few others. There's a Sean von Berg who just won't stop playing at 39. There's so much spin here. So, there's ample time to practice. But for some reason, guys just maybe for Tony, his
Hmm.
excuse is he grew up here in Gauteng, where we have
Hmm.
seaming pitches.
Hmm. No, no, that checks out. Look, I'm not a climate change expert, but based on what I've learned through Jared, is that global warming has also played a role in making South African pitches rag a bit more. And maybe we're too early in that sort of phase where you'll get batters who are just automatically good players of spin and grow up that way. Like Heinrich Klaassen, for instance, was curating surfaces at a very young age, and he would
Mm.
on purpose curate surfaces which turned a bit more and have his mates who bowled spin bowl at him, and he was or still is an elite spin basher in T20 cricket. But then again, I feel like your skill set versus spin in tests and white ball cricket slightly differs in the sense that in white ball cricket you can take spinners on, whereas in test cricket, yes, you could still do that. I'm not saying you can't, but it's slightly more risky, and you need to kind of know how to play spinners off the front foot without having to skip down the track. And on the back foot, you're probably like, dead, right? Like that's not a good idea if the surface is turning, I suppose. So it's going to be interesting to see how South Africa, cope with this challenge. The Bangladesh series, as well as South Africa batted, it came down to Kagiso Rabada. It might be a similar story over here. Pakistan don't have the best batting lineup in the world. Babar and Rizwan are there, but Babar is out of form. And Rizwan hasn't played in a bit, right? So I feel like it would be a very even contest. And if I had to go with a prediction, I would go with the safe one. One each, one all.
Look, the only thing I want from this series is if we can get one match that ends like Centurion for either side.
Yeah.
Just some excitement, that
Yeah.
adrenaline.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Pakistan fans won't agree with you, CS. They're probably still recovering from the Centurion test match because it was what, Janssen and KG who took South Africa over the line. And
Yeah.
look, it ended brilliantly because South Africa lifted the mace. And I can tell you one thing, all of Pakistan was behind Temba. And they kind of took him as their own. And it's great how, of course, I suppose sport works this way, that if you are a neutral, you will always support the underdog. And South Africa, everyone wanted them to break the hoodoo, right? And get that ICC
Mm.
trophy. So I feel like this team will go out there with some new confidence that hey, we're the champs and we defeated Bangladesh in Bangladesh 2-0, and this Pakistan team has holes. And these surfaces provide us with an equal opportunity to win games as well. So I feel like it's going to be an exciting series. Let's see if the test matches go to day 4. And yeah, let's hope for a couple of thrillers. Why one? Let's hope for 2 thrillers.
Exactly. That's what I would
Yeah.
want because I want to be sitting there watching, rooting for South Africa naturally, but I also
Hmm.
want it to be thrilling. I don't
Hmm.
want a 3-day test and one side
Hmm.
is blown the other out of the water. I mean, no, I don't want that. I want this is what excites me about Test cricket. It's the drama. It's a soap
Yeah.
opera. I want the
Hmm.
storyline.
You want that overnight drama where you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow and which team is ahead when. Each session is important. Test cricket is an acquired taste, but once you start enjoying that taste, nothing trumps it. And I'm glad that we're back in, Test cricket season. India playing today, and then of course this series kicks off next week. And we don't really get full tours anymore, CS. South Africa are
Mhm.
coming for, tests and ODIs and T20s. It seems like a blast from the past, but I love it. And I hope that all the South African boys have the greatest time in Pakistan. And I know for a fact that they'll be treated like royalty.
Look, this is what we grew up on. We knew there's going to be a
Yeah.
Test series, there's going to be a T20, there's going to be an ODI. I
Yep.
want that, and I'm
Yes.
happy that we have it. But look, Pakistan also did a number on us in the white ball series when they came over.
Hmm.
The boys need to get one back here.
Yeah. And they could. They very well could because you're going to get some really nice batting decks, at least for the ODIs and T20s, I reckon. But I hope it's a tour to remember and we get some really close encounters. The tests are what I'm looking most forward to, but it is rather refreshing that we're getting a full tour. And yeah, I hope that the South African boys, I know that they'll go back with great memories as far as, them being looked after is concerned. But let's see
Mhm.
if they can go back with some better memories on the field as well.
Brilliant. And Beram, thank you very much for allowing me to carve about an hour of your day just to talk about this.
Like I said, CS, I've got a lot of time for my good areas family, and I mean you're new to this, and I want to support you as much as I can. Plus, I really love the conversation, man. Like this wasn't even work; it was just two colleagues talking to each other, and I had done zero preparation for this as well. Like I just got out of bed, did my morning ritual, and I came and sat in front of you over here in my night suit. So yeah, it was good fun, and I'll be happy to come on whenever you need me to.
Brilliant. Yeah, I will try to trap you for one of the white ball series because Everyone wants that. Everyone who watches cricket today wants to talk about T20, so why not?
Yeah. Anyway, we'll see you then, I suppose. And everyone go and, I mean, there are a lot of people over here probably here because they saw me in the thumbnail. Subscribe to CS's channel, like, share, do all of that fun stuff. He does a lot of good work for us at good areas. He's a poet, so you can probably indulge in CS's poetry as well. And he writes his own column at on Substack. So go follow CS everywhere, and he's the best that South Africa have to offer. So don't be a fool and go and read and kind of listen to his work.